He was a pastor to the people of this city, leading with compassion, wisdom, grace, and strategic problem-solving skills, always building relationships as he went. He believed in the model of Christ that both the spiritual and the physical needs of the people needed to be met for them to flourish. He was quick to laugh and smile, and also to carefully listen. He knew who he was, and he was satisfied. He was a servant of God and man, and he despised neither role, but embraced them as a mission unending. Though he retired from governance in 1996 in the pulpit from 2012, he continued to lead through example, organizational support, volunteerism, and individual discipleship, whether he called it that or not. He walked out the word, not in pursuit of or attained perfection, but in loving devotion to the Lord and the people to whom he was entrusted. His anger rose at the wiles of the wicked, and his eye was always fixed on God to ultimately provide justice for the disenfranchised. Meanwhile, he worked. He put his gifts to use and his faith to the test. He walked out the word. Leading up to his 94th birthday, he was calling and visiting ailing and aging neighbors to pray for and encourage them. Just after that birthday, I asked him, "So what do you want to do next?" And he said, "I want to lead from behind. I want to help other people get done what they want to do." He even had one particular organization in mind, and with his normal strategic mind, he said, "But I need to find out more about their organizational structure and their operations first." He even asked when I was going to refresh my stories. He paid attention. He listened. He strategized. He moved discreetly. And he saw success over and over. And he never needed credit, just the knowledge that his work helped solve someone else's problem or pave someone else's way. He loved social gatherings to a point, but didn't revel in the recognition of men. He lived for a different accolade, a lofty goal, and a distant mark. On August 11th, Dad got the recognition he worked so hard for. He received the reward he suffered for. And he also met the maker that he labored for. That day, he slipped into the true celebration of his life, long awaited. He heard the words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
In addition to many of the larger moments we've come to celebrate, a lot of people had a personal story. He saved marriages. He walked people through addiction. He supported them through unemployment and eviction. Even daughter Lauren's struggle with sickle cell anemia, he turned into an association aimed at education, resources, and treatment for others facing the disease. Presence, perhaps, may have been one of the most powerful ways Reverend Davies joined God in what God was already doing all these years in this community. Every mayor since his tenure has leaned on the counsel and compassion of Lawrence Davies. His involvement with Germanna Community College and local school systems has been a blessing for advancing and embracing diversity in this community. His presence in healthcare needs of this community facilitated a new and expanded hospital campus. And let's not fail to notate how his willingness to be a first Black city council member, a first Black mayor, many times over, a first at many things, at a time it was not popular to be first, set a tone and an expectation for how young people in our community at that time, they too could be a first in their homes, communities, school systems, and neighborhoods. And we see a lot of those today inspired by Lawrence Davies.
And he was not just the mayor in name, but he did a whole lot to transform this area. Fredericksburg was just kind of a one-horse town. Come on now. I know y'all want to get all cityfied now, but I passed through Fredericksburg, and I was looking for certain things. I couldn't find them because I found out it was a one-horse town. But the good thing about Dr. Davies, he brought along other horses. And Fredericksburg began to grow, and it expanded to the point that almost everybody who works up north comes down here because it's a great place to live, is it not? Because they can get more bang for their buck. They come down here because Dr. Davies and those who followed him and those who are leading today helped to put things in place to make Fredericksburg the great city that she is. He did not stop at the borders of our country. He became instrumental in forming sister cities, as has been mentioned by Ambassador, in France and Germany and other places. And then, along with Mrs. Davies, they turned the pain of sickle cell into a remedy for those who suffered from that malady. And even at the ripe old age of 93 or 94, he was still a student, ever learning new things. I found out the other day he learned about playing the card game Uno. Is that right? And just like everything he put his hands on, he didn't just casually look at it, he studied the rules. He studied the rules so much so that he beat everybody else who tried to play with him, because he always had that competitive edge about him. He always had a mindset that if folks say no, if folks try to block him, I'll find another way. And we're so glad, aren't we, Shiloh? We're so glad that I was just looking at that picture in the program when he came to the 170th Gala to celebrate all of those years that Shiloh had been welcoming souls in, telling them about the love of Jesus. And in his not as strong as it had been frame, he rose up. He stood up and he spoke up. And he brilliantly spoke to us not about what had been done, but he gave us a vision for the future. And for many of us, that was the last time we heard him speak publicly. I say it was the last time we heard him speak publicly because he's still speaking right now. Can you hear him? Can you hear him? He said, I have taken this baton as far as I can. You run on a little while longer. I've stood up for people who could not stand for themselves. I spoke up for people who could not speak for themselves. Now you run on a little while longer. I tried to make housing better for those who came after me. I was not just concerned about what happened to me, myself, and I was concerned about all of Fredericksburg. And my brothers and my sisters, we must declare that we have been made better by Dr. Lawrence Davies.